right, folks, welcome to another edition of Outspoken. I'm Dan Sileo, and what a wild week it's been in sports. LeBron James in Philadelphia, opening of NFL camps, Major League Baseball, WNBA All-Star Game. It's been absolutely insane when it comes to the headlines in sports. This Kyle Shanahan story, though, is wild. We were just going over it, and John Lynch, the general manager of the football team, just came out and said that it looks like that Kyle Shanahan, who was injured in a car accident a couple months ago, actually a couple weeks ago, in the middle of July, will maybe make the September 10th opener against the Rams in Melbourne, Australia. So this happened like three and a half weeks ago. Why in the world would the 49ers in the National Football League sit on a story like this if it wasn't so for the changing of the point spread in this football game? I mean, he received severe injuries. He broke his nose. There were numerous injuries, and they're using all kinds of wording like not life-threatening. Well, okay, if he's going to maybe miss the opener on September 10th against the Rams, this thing was pretty severe and pretty serious. He's missing all of training camp for the San Francisco 49ers. There's no other way not to look at this but to do it like this. This has to be over gambling. This has to be the movement of the point spread. Your head football coach is not going to be at training camp for the entire time and may miss the opener. And John Lynch is reporting that it looks like he's probably going to be there in Melbourne, Australia. Probably. So, again, this is a wild story. Why would the NFL and the 49ers sit on a story like this? I mean, you're talking about a head football coach of a football team that's considered a Super Bowl contender, and you're holding a story back? 3 weeks ago, this thing happened. What a wild story. All right, so many great stories going on right now as we're getting ready for the upcoming start of the NFL season. And I got to start it here with Tom Brady. This new Tom Brady, dude, I mean, you know what? Ever since he's left the National Football League, I think Tom's trying to figure out what he wants to be when he grows up. Okay, so now he's slapping Logan Paul in the face. And you folks, we do agree that SummerSlam is coming up here August 2nd, right? You know Tom Brady's going to make an appearance at SummerSlam. You want a prediction? You think Tom Brady's going to be at SummerSlam and they're going to have this play out there at SummerSlam? It's in Minneapolis. Guarantee you Tom Brady is going to be there. I can't figure what Tom Brady wants to do when he grows up now. So now he's an executive part owner of the Las Vegas Raiders. He now is a guy who's playing flag football. He's also a guy now wanting to be a wrestler. I mean, hey, ever since he left the NFL and Giselle left his ass for the Kung Fu guy, I'm trying to figure out who Tom Brady wants to be when he grows up. He doesn't have to show up to work with the Raiders, only when he wants to. He's got a job with Fox that he's kind of okay at. And now we're sitting there thinking, is he going to get into acting next? Boy, this thing, I'm trying to figure out what Tom's going to do when this guy, again, ends up figuring out what his number one thing is since he's left the game of football. You talk about guys searching for things to replicate the things you did in the National Football League. Hey, listen, anytime you leave that sport and anytime you leave football, it's the toughest divorce you'll ever have in your entire life because it's about sacrifice. I tell folks this all the time. Your greatest love and your first love in life, outside of your children, is football. That's the hardest divorce you will ever go through. I played football for almost 27 years, okay? And that is my first love. Outside of my kid, that's my first love. And it's the toughest divorce you'll ever make in your life when you leave that game. You sacrifice everything, your family, your friends, things that you want to do in life as you're getting ready to try to play that great sport. You sacrifice. And when that thing is taken away from you, because let's face it, Father Time is undefeated. And Tom Brady's trying to figure out what he wants to do and try to replicate the excitement that football gave him. Slapping Logan Paul, I said right away, as soon as he hit the guy, I'm like, I'll see him at SummerSlam. Tom wants to get into acting. Fine. All good. Never begrudge a guy who wants to change gears and wants to be somebody else here. And Jake Paul sends a message to Tom Brady after his altercation with his brother here at the Fanatics Fest. And listen, I got to tell you, we're going to see him at SummerSlam. It's pretty cool to see Tom Brady being all these new images and all these new characters. He's trying to figure out, folks, what he wants to do when he grows up after the life of football. That's where he is in his life right now. Okay? All right. I got to say this, man. Kudos to Bob Myers. He is head of Harris Blitzer Sports and Entertainment. And ever since Bob Myers, the architect of the Golden State Warriors dynasty, the 76ers are playing in a different lane. They don't even look like the old process. You know the old Elton Brand process? Hey, we're going to tank for 5 years and absolutely go through the process. And you know what the process has gotten them so far? They can't get out of the opening round of the NBA playoffs. That's what the process has led them to. And now you put a guy who knows what he's doing. They are just operating in a completely different lane. You go out and you end up moving that Paul George contract, which I said was one of the biggest albatrosses that 76er franchise had. You moved off of the pathetic general manager in Daryl Morey. You hire Bob Myers, and somehow Myers is ending up doing this. He goes and gets Jaylen Brown, adds him to the 76ers starting five. Then a month later, he turns around and he gets LeBron James in the building. Dude, the hiring of Bob Myers by Josh Harris, the owner, kudos to that dude. I know Bob pretty well. And when he was there in Golden State, it was cool because you know what really and who helped him a lot in navigating through the waters there when he was running the Golden State Warriors? Of course, it was the logo himself, Jerry West. Jerry West was a consultant in that organization. And while they were building that thing up, Myers was learning from one of the greatest, if not the greatest, executive/player in NBA history in Jerry West. Dude, you know what the biggest significant move they made was? A non-move. You know what that was? There was talk of them even early on in Steph Curry's career that they were going to move Steph Curry. You know what Jerry West said? Are you crazy? And Bob Myers said, you're right. And they turned around and they went on to win 4 NBA championships with Steph. I mean, look, Myers has gone in there and he's already wielded his magic. The 76ers are in a different lane. They just made a recent move also, adding a little more depth to their basketball team. That doesn't even look like what they've done with Elton Brand and with Daryl Morey. They're operating completely in a different lane. And it looks like Bob Myers has been, without a doubt, rejuvenated in running a basketball team and trying to get another championship. Hey, I'll make this point to you, too. LeBron getting another championship, that's cool. How about Bob Myers going to Philadelphia and him end up getting himself an NBA championship and another championship? Wow. Hey, man. That guy is one great team executive, and it shows already since he's taken the reins there in Philadelphia. All right. Our great friends at Morgan & Morgan, the number one injury law firm in all of America, for a reason, folks. It's because they win. I tell you about the family in Pennsylvania that was initially offered $650,000. They got nearly $30 million in settlement. Or the family in Florida that got offered $350K. They got nearly $12 million in settlement. Go forthepeople.com/Big Sills or pound law 529. That's forthepeople.com/Big Sills or pound law 529. And do me a favor. You tell them Big Sills sent you. Big news in basketball. How about that WNBA? I tuned it on and there was Caitlin Clark looking like Steph Curry. The LeBron news is insane. And guess who called him? JY. He's next here on SportsGrid.
Come in a lot more better prepared to play than say we did, having to learn some of the things that we learned coming into the NFL that we weren't learning in college. A lot of these kids are getting quarterback coaches, as far back as junior high school and all the way through high school into college. So I think the position is a lot more stronger than it's ever been.
Outspoken with Dan Sileo, only on SportsGrid.
Atlanta should be the team to step up and secure him.
Yeah, Atlanta's really interesting because they're much further down the list at only 8% right now on call sheet, but this is a team that has constantly come up in terms of GMs thinking, or the reports suggesting that GMs are thinking that Atlanta Braves are the dark horse team to kind of swoop in there and get Scoogle, and that's going to be something that we should pay attention to.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Wembanyama goes to the park and plays chess against people. I saw him come in with a book today. Yeah. He walked in with a book, Kevin. He had a bunch of books in his hand. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, he's the only NBA player that actually walks in with a book that actually read it.
Yeah. It's a good take. Yeah.
Shot of LeBron. I couldn't help it.
I knew that I was trying to cut you off before you said the name.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
I'll tell you what, usually this time of the year, people are getting ready for the NBA here, and they're getting ready for the NFL, not the NBA here. And all of a sudden, we're getting all of this news going on with the National Basketball Association. And I got to tell you, here he is. I'm going to start calling him Nostradamus. He is JY, and JY joins us now here. LBJ to the Sixers, dude. Here he is, the guy who picked it, and the man who ended up, he said it. This would happen. And JY, before we do this, I want to show people the clip. This was about maybe 3.5 weeks ago. And here's JY talking about LeBron to the Sixers. Listen to this. Think it's going to be Philadelphia? Do you think it's Cleveland? Or do you potentially think it could be the Miami Heat with Pat Riley?
To me, if he wants legacy, and I think LeBron's a legacy guy, I think he's got to go to Philly. I mean, now listen, you know better than I do, Big Sills. It's different. I mean, geez, they booed Santa Claus. They cheered Michael over when he thought he was paralyzed. I mean, they are lethal in the Philadelphia for a reason. Remember, he's been 4 franchises. He's won championships in every single one. I don't think going back to Cleveland does it, right? He's already done it in Miami. You go to Philadelphia, an iconic franchise, hasn't won in over, almost 50 years, 40 some odd years.
Okay, and here he is, Mr. Nostradamus himself. JY, you called it, dude.
Hey, listen, Big Sills, first off, usually I wouldn't want to come on, but JY's at the beach. But if I got to give 20 minutes, I'm giving my guy Big Sills a little bit of my time. Sills, I maintain what I said. I thought about LeBron, it was on his legacy. Running it back in Cleveland didn't do it for me. Miami, I don't think they were a championship team. And plus, he's already won rings in Miami, right? He wanted to go to the East. Once the Warriors thing, and they couldn't get Anthony Davis, I thought that kind of eliminated them. So I kept looking at it as being Philadelphia, a team that hasn't won a championship since '83. You noticed it hasn't went to the finals since '01 and Allen Iverson. And you step into a roster. And here's the other thing with LeBron. LeBron wants to go somewhere where he knows he can win, right? He looks at Philadelphia with that starting lineup of Maxey, of Etchcombe, of Jaylen Brown, right? Of himself now with Joel Embiid. Dean Wade off the bench. Anthony Simons off the bench. He just got KCP to get a buyout from his contract to go there as well. The stars were aligned for LeBron. But here's what I will preface this. Big Sills, you know Philadelphia better than I do. It's either going to go really good or really, really bad. If they win, the GOAT debate could be put to bed possibly. If they don't win, those Philly fans, you know them, they'll turn on LeBron really, really quick.
Absolutely, they're going to turn on him, and they'll build a statue for him if he delivers an NBA championship there, as you said. You just mentioned the starting five. You think that's the best starting five in the Eastern Conference?
Yes, and I'm a Knicks fan. Healthy, 100%, yes. But, Big Sills, you got to win with more than talent. We saw this with the Kobe, Shaq, Gary Payton, Karl Malone Lakers, and what was that, 04 when they lost to Detroit. But that starting lineup, Big Sills, is as good as you're going to see. And their depth with KCP, with Dean Wade, with Adem Bona, who came on second half year, with Anthony Simons. That's a really good second unit. Let me say this, and I mean this. This is the best Philadelphia 76ers team since the Moses Malone 83 Sixers. This is
wow.
They've never been this close, Big Sills. They're right there. And I'll tell you right now, sign me up for that I-95 rivalry between New York and Philadelphia. Because when you got Maxey, Edgecombe, Brown, LeBron, and Embiid, and the other side you got Brunson, Hart, Bridges, Anunoby, and Cat. That is what they call cinema.
Absolutely here. How about the relationship you think between Nick Nurse and LeBron? If you think about the coaches that he's played for outside of Eric Spoelstra, you could really look at some of those guys as being B-plus coaches that he's had as head coaches. I mean, Coach Brown, obviously, I think you look at him today in a different light than when you looked at him when he was in Cleveland. Now he's got Nick Nurse, who's won an NBA championship. How do you think that dynamic works? And do you think that was one of the major dynamics also that attracted LeBron to Philadelphia was he's going to a place where a coach has won an NBA championship?
Well, I think the whole Clutch Sports thing has got to be mentioned. And I think the fact that they have Tyrese Maxey there, I think Tyrese Maxey may be the biggest reason why. And Rich Paul wanted to get his hands on another franchise and it be Clutch Sports. So I think that has a major reason why LeBron went there. Let me tell you this. I've thought for a long time that Nick Nurse is a top 5 coach in the NBA. I really do. And what he did with Toronto was outstanding, but he hasn't really gotten really far in the playoffs since then. But he's dealt with injuries. What I'm going to watch for, Big Sills, is how they manage the minutes. Because they have so many guys that can score, I want to see Nick Nurse take.
Okay, so again here, folks, we're going over the LeBron James stuff here with JY here, and make no mistake about it. The starting five, as you just heard him say, possibly the best starting five in all of the Eastern Conference right now. And we mentioned Bob Myers and the job that Bob Myers has done. And JY, I want to get into Bob Myers here real quick and how important that he's been in this whole process. Give me your takeaway on Bob Myers.
Well, it's funny, if you really think about it, Big Sills. Bob Myers was the architect of the Golden State Warriors team. That's one of the teams that beat out, that they beat out was Golden State. Bob Myers is an outstanding executive, and he's another person where his legacy will take another boost by going to win a ring somewhere else. So it's a great move for Philadelphia if they can win it. If they can win it, the GOAT debate stops. And it may stop, and it stops Bob Myers as well. If they don't win and they flame out, a lot of blame's going to go to Bob Myers and LeBron James.
Boy, I'll tell you what, you win a 4th title, 5th title overall, 4th in a different city. That debate, you're dead on, JY. You're talking about legacy stuff here. We're going to talk some WNBA next with JY, right here on SportsGrid.
Come in a lot more better prepared to play than, say, we did, having to learn some of the things that that we learned coming into the NFL that we weren't learning in college. A lot of these kids are getting quarterback coaches, as far back as junior high school and all the way through high school into college. So I think the position is a lot more stronger than it's ever been.
Outspoken with Dan Sileo, only on SportsGrid.
Atlanta should be the team to step up and secure him.
Yeah, Atlanta's really interesting because they're, much further down the list at only, 8% right now on call sheet. But this is a team that has constantly come up in terms of GMs thinking, or the reports suggesting that GMs are thinking that Atlanta Braves are the dark horse team to kind of swoop in there and get Scoogle. And that's going to be something that, we should pay attention to.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Wembanyama goes to the park and plays chess against people. I saw him come in with a book today. Yeah. He walked in with a book, Kevin. He had a bunch of books in his hand. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, he's the only NBA player that actually walks in with a book that actually read it.
Yeah. It's a good take. It's a good take. Yeah.
Shot of LeBron. Listen, I couldn't help it.
I knew that I was trying to cut you off before you said the name.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Man, there's a lot of hoop news. We just got through talking about the NBA and with LeBron James and how that thing's going to all shake out here. And, oh, by the way, real quick, JY, Eastern Conference Finals, 76ers and Knicks. What do you think that does for television ratings?
I'll tell you right now, no one will like it more better than the Acela Express on Amtrak. If you can get the I-95 corridor to get that up and down between Philly and New York, sign me up, Big Sales. I think I said it before. LeBron went there. That I thought that Philadelphia was the biggest threat to the Knicks. Now I think the Knicks have to be the threat to Philadelphia. I can see why Philadelphia can be the betting favorite right now. But sign me up right now, Knicks Sixers in the Eastern Conference Finals in 2027.
All right, let's get over to the WNBA. Tuned on the All-Star game. Caitlin Clark is a modern-day Steph Curry on the women's side. She's shooting from the logo, dude. I mean, the WNBA, give me your overall sense here heading into that All-Star game. Caitlin Clark in the storyline in the saga. You and I have chronicled it. We've talked about it. What do you make of the whole thing and how the thing has really come to a head there at the All-Star game?
Well, I thought Caitlin Clark came out gunning. I mean, she hit about 3 or 4 logo threes, shot the ball extremely well early on, kind of cooled off a little bit later in the game. But the league needed that game to have some juice behind it because there's not going to be a lot of defense, right? So you look for storylines. So Caitlin Clark getting going early was fantastic. Record-breaking crowd, over 19,000 people, I should say, at the United Center. So it was a good night for the WNBA. Listen, Big Sales. The league is doing well because of their stars, because of Caitlin Clark, because of Paige Beckers, because of Asia Wilson, right? The league is doing well. It's the commissioner that's the issue. And that's the issue that I think everybody's had at Big Sales. It's come out. I said it to you weeks ago. I said she's not going to make it through this season. Well, they're already saying there's people report saying that she's not going to make it to 2027. She's dismissive. She's divisive. She had a press conference last night. No one asked her about Caitlin Clark. We know about the Dan Patrick situation. I mean, for the first time in year 30, Big Sills, that league is making money. I mean, they're about to print money. And this lady single-handedly could get in the way. They got to find a way to either get her under control and get it going the right way and be the spokesman for the league, or move her aside and bring someone else in to continue to build up that league.
Tell me this then. So they're successful in spite of themselves, is what you're saying here, and management. When does the NBA and Adam Silver? I heard some noise last week with him making noise. Jay-Way, when do they get involved in this? Because, look, every owner knows and wants to make money. And like you said, for 28 years, JY, that thing lost money. It was hemorrhaging money. Now they're making dough. When do they step in and say, hey, we got to put a new figurehead in there, and we've got to get another commissioner in there? And maybe, who would you think would be that person that would take that role from her and put someone in there that would move the league forward?
Honestly, I would look at a former player. I know that sounds crazy. Get an executive team around someone like a Sue Bird or a Tarazi, someone that's been around the game, a Cynthia Cooper, a Teresa Weatherspoon, or even have some kind of leadership council of former WNBA players that could be that liaison between the commissioner and the players, because that game is very much about giving the game back. I'll say this right now, Big Sills. You don't think Adam Silver is involved in this now behind the scenes? I mean, listen, at the end of the day, when you come down to a business, one thing you don't do, you don't play with people's money. And if the WNBA messes up, they're going to mess with the NBA's money. They're not going to handle that well, Big Sil. So that's why I think Adam Silver is maybe behind the scenes trying to maybe help Kathy. But if they don't figure that they can get it done, they're going to bring someone else in there, because at the end of the day, NBA is making money, WNBA is making money, and they're going to let a commissioner ruin it for everybody.
And you know what? The other storyline here is, JY, it's been a really good year. There's been some compelling stories outside of Caitlin Clark. Am I right?
Well, it's been great stories. Valkyrie's in year 2. You can look at the performance of Olivia Miles, who I said should have been the number 1 draft pick over AZ Fudd, although AZ's playing well. Dallas is playing well. Jessica Shepard's having a career year. But there's one team that's not playing well, and that's the New York Liberty. Now, last night, Jonquel Jones got named WNBA MVP of the All-Star game. I will maintain this, and I've said this. It's not Sabrina Ionescu. It's not Brianna Stewart. It's not Satu Sabli. The lady that stirs that drink is Jonquel Jones. If Double J plays the way that Double J will play, then the Liberty will find a way and win the WNBA championship. But if she shoots threes like Bill Laimbeer, that ain't going to happen.
Boy, I'll tell you what, I can't wait, man. Hoop is really heating up, and usually we're talking about the NFL right now. JY, I appreciate it. Enjoy AC, man. We're going to talk the CEO of Del Mar Racing, Joe Harper, next here on SportsGrid.
They come in a lot more better prepared to play than, say, we did, having to learn some of the things that we learned coming into the NFL that we weren't learning in college. A lot of these kids are getting quarterback coaches, as far back as junior high school and all the way through high school into college. So I think the position is a lot more stronger than it's ever been.
Outspoken with Dan Sileo, only on SportsGrid.
Atlanta should be the team to step up and secure him.
Yeah, Atlanta's really interesting because they're, much further down the list at only, 8% right now on call sheet. But this is a team that has constantly come up in terms of GMs thinking, or the reports suggesting that GMs are thinking that Atlanta Braves are the dark horse team to kind of swoop in there and get Scoogle. And that's going to be something that, we should pay attention to.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Wembanyama goes to the park and plays chess against people. I saw him come in with a book today. Yeah. He walked in with a book, Kevin. He had a bunch of books in his hand. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, he's the only NBA player that actually walks in with a book that actually read it.
Yeah. It's a good take. It's a good take. Yeah.
Shot of LeBron. Listen, I couldn't help it.
I knew that I was trying to cut you off before you said the name.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Folks, one of my favorite places on the planet to go to is Del Mar Racing. And I got to tell you, I've been there so many times. It's one of the greatest atmospheres I have ever seen. And a guy who has been there for 50 plus years, and he is the CEO now, and he's going to be retiring at the end of the year here. He is Joe Harper, and he joins us now here on the program. And Joe, 50 years, and now you're calling it a career. I mean, why now? I mean, all the things that you have accomplished there with Del Mar Racing, it's one of the magical places that you could ever go to have fun at a horse racing. I mean, tell me why now?
Well, it's time. I'm not getting any younger. I'm hitting 83 years old. I feel great. But the fact is that I'm not really leaving altogether. I'm still staying on the board. I'll be there as a consultant. They've got me listed something other so to make sure I'll stick around. And it's Josh Rubenstein who's taking over. He's been my right hand man for years, and he knows the business. He's smarter than I am, and so things are going to go smoothly. I'm sure of it.
So, Joe, tell me, in your time there, what has been the most significant thing that you think that you guys have accomplished there under your reign? What do you think if you had to put, probably there's numerous things. I know the grandstand that you guys redid when you finally got there and were in the CEO role, you were instrumental in that. But what do you think is the most instrumental thing in your reign there as CEO of Del Mar?
Well, I think probably getting the Breeders' Cup to come out here, and I mean that's the biggest day in racing, really, next to the Kentucky Derby. And they when I went back to kind of push for this when we rebuilt this facility, I'm looking at about 4 or 5 guys that are making the decision where to go, and I asked them. I said, "Well, you guys ever been to Del Mar?" They said, "No." I said, California, not much. So it took a little bit of selling. So I said, well, why don't you come out and take a look and let me know what you think? Well, it's the perfect spot for it. I mean, not just the racetrack that we built can accommodate the crowds that they get, the upscale end of it as well. But, you're across the street from hotels and nice resorts right down the street. So you got golf courses all over the joint. So, I mean, it's a great place to be around the tracks. And I think that was the best selling point we had.
Do you agree, Joe? Because I think we had a conversation about this before. East Coast versus West Coast horse racing. Do you think there was a stigma that you had to overcome on getting the Breeders' Cup out there? Because everybody always looks at the East Coast, and that's where all the major events are there. Was that one of the selling points that you had to make, was West Coast horse racing is a thing too? Because I remember that used to be something that you used to have to sell people on, and here we are with the Breeders' Cup here at Del Mar.
Yeah, that it's always been kind of that way. The NY, the 3 tracks in New York. The Kentucky tracks. That's what people go to for the big races, and so I think Del Mar has the charm of the place, and I kept pushing that, and the fact that where we are and who we are, and there's a gazillion restaurants, as you know, all around, great places to be, and they finally got that. I got that through to them, and they came out and they said, "Wow, we never knew this was all here." So they're very interested, and they love the Breeders' Cup when it's out here. I've been told that this track they make the most money at, the most profit. So that's certainly a big straw in our feather in our hat. But I think it's coming. They want to come back here, and they'll be back, I think. But there's always a little bit of politics in this game, so it'll make the rounds for a while.
Tell me what you think of the industry right now, the thoroughbred industry, where it is right now. Do you think it's in a good place?
No, I don't. I think there's, we've seen a lot of tracks go away. I think, it's always, the competition is different. I think, we've got some bad press on horse, injuries, things like that. And you got a younger fan base coming in and an older fan base going out. I think I've always said that Del Mar, we're in the best position we could be because where we are in a resort town. Um, Believe me, you've been here on opening day. It's a party, and I guarantee you that probably 50% of those people that come out on opening day have never been to any other racetrack, but they'll come here because of where it is, and not just who we are, but where we are, and. We've tried to market in that respect that, hey, this is a party, this is a lot of fun. We got great restaurants, and when the races are over, you got 3 or 4 miles in any direction are super places to go and eat and have fun. So, not to mention that big blue thing that I'm looking at right now, called the Pacific Ocean, is another pretty good reason to be here.
Absolutely there. So, Joe, do you believe that you guys have to do a better job in the industry at marketing the younger fan base, like the younger crowd? Because again, like you just said, it's so competitive right now. Plus, you have betting now. You can do it from all types of apps. How is that being kind of like, brought into the thoroughbred industry? There's so many ways that you can gamble now with these apps. You don't really have to go anywhere any longer. Is that played a factor as well?
Well, I think, with the off-track business being what it is, I mean, great, we're making a lot of money and from it, but I'm a people person. I think that I mean, I came out of showbiz years ago. I was born into it. Even was in a couple of movies. But I think that the fact that you can put on a show here beyond just the racing, but make it attractive. Have great food. Have things going on. We did the concert series for a while. That brought a lot of people in, although it was a lot expensive. But you've got to create an atmosphere that just doesn't say racing; it says fun, and we got a lot of pretty people walking around here in the crowd, and it's it's a great place to be, even if you don't, or if you don't a regular racetracker.
No, and I actually went to that series where you were bringing acts in there. I saw Ice Cube there at Del Mar, and we saw a couple other events there at Del Mar there. That was really wild there. So you're using the facility kind of like the NFL guys are, not just for football. You're using the facility for other ways on being able to bring some more income into Del Mar racing, right? So you're adding more events. I know that you have the fair out there. You do a lot of other things there too, but kind of like what the NFL does with their stadiums, adding more events, right?
Well, I think, I think the days of just everybody go there, there's no TV. You go there and sit on a wooden chair. I remember going to all those Hollywood star baseball games back in the day. But yeah, I think you have to tell yourself you're in the entertainment business, not just the racing business or the baseball business. I think that's absolutely necessary in this particular market that we're seeing across the country. People want to be entertained. They want to have fun. They want good food. They want, to see pretty people and all that kind of stuff. If you can get a few stars going. So you got to think broader than just your product.
Absolutely there. And opening, whose idea was that, Joe, for the opening day of Del Mar? Folks, if you've never been there, and I've been there about 10 times, and you go there, you get all the hats, the pretty ladies wear all the hats. It's just one of the greatest things. Was that your idea, Joe?
I'd like to take credit for it, but it just happened in its own. It just, it was all of a sudden, this was an opening day, and the sun is shining, and I think everybody wanted to be seen. I think probably 3/4 of the crowd out there on opening day
Joe,
probably doesn't pay much attention to the rating.
Well, hold it there. We're going to do this again here on SportsGrid.
You wouldn't have your ex officiate your wedding.
Do you, Jake? Liar? Cheater? Gaslighter?
So why have anyone but America's largest injury law firm handle your injury case? With over $30 billion recovered for our clients, there's a reason to go big.
Gaslighter, coitus crier, he's got more red flags than a bullfighter's attire.
Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.
We are talking to the CEO of Del Mar Racing, Joe Harper, who's retiring at the end of the year. Joe, your Hollywood background, how much do you think that influenced you in running Del Mar, and how much that was important to put a show on with you there running Del Mar?
Well, I think it was. I grew up in the picture business. My grandfather was the Cecil B. DeMille. He made the first movie in Hollywood and made 70 some movies. The Ten Commandments was a big one. And I got to be in The Greatest Show on Earth as a circus performer. And the Ten Commandments, I played a Hebrew slave. But I'll tell you, I saw a photo of makeup in me, and I looked more like an Irish paper boy in a bad wig, but not a Hebrew slave. But I managed to pull it off, but it was a lot of fun, and you do learn a lot about what to put on a screen and how it works. I spent some years as a cinema photographer, and you see the world a little different when you look through a camera, and I think that probably had an impact on me to understand how you bring people to a theater, and as well how you bring them to a racetrack.
You know what, too? I mean, the track has been littered with Hollywood, too. If I'm not mistaken, I think you told me that Bing Crosby was the major factor at Del Mar when it was first, opened, and he was a major, major player in this. And many of the Hollywood people were major players in it. And that's kind of the background of what Del Mar is, too. It's a show. And if you've never been there, like you said, you don't understand it until you've been there. But it's always been about really theater in Hollywood.
Yeah, it has. Bob Hope was a friend of mine, and I asked him one day, I said, how did you end up with, and he said, well, Bing Crosby, who was a singer and an actor, and so he wasn't beholden to any particular studio. A lot of, in those days, early days, you were a contract player. Even if you were a star, you did everything the studio told you to do. But Bing had a little more, sway, and so he came down, and when Hope told me, he said, when he tells you to come down to Del Mar for the day, you came down. So that was Bing's marketing. I mean, it was amazing. You could come down here. There was no TV in those days. No. So if you wanted to see a movie star, go to Del Mar because they were all there. Bing brought them all down. Bob Hope and all these other guys from the 30s and 40s. So it worked.
What makes Del Mar special, in your opinion? I mean, what makes the track? What makes the environment? What makes the setting so special for people to want to come to?
Well, I think where we are, not just who we are. I mean, I'm sitting here in my house looking at the Pacific Ocean, which is about, 100 yards from the racetrack. It's a great place. It's a resort city. That's really helpful. And we've tried to market it, not just the racing, but where we are. We've put on all kinds of special deals. We've had concerts. We have family fun days. We, go through the taste of Del Mar. We do all that stuff that's beyond just looking at the pretty horses. So, I think that I've never left the fact that we're in the entertainment business. We're entertaining with a racetrack, but we're in the entertainment business, and we need to get the people out here that not necessarily because they want to see a horse, but because they want to have fun and eat some good food.
Absolutely. A couple more questions here for you, Joe. Josh Rubenstein, you've been grooming him to take over. Well, kind of, because you're still going to be out there at the track. I'm very sure of it. But so Josh Rubenstein, you've been kind of grooming him to take this role here. What will he add? What are you looking forward to seeing him in his role?
Well, Josh has been around a long time. He came out. I always said for his first day of work, his mother had to drive him out there because he was too young to drive. He's been working in the press box in those days. He's been running around being a gopher, and you just saw a little. He's a smart guy and he loves the game. And he came up. I knew that I wasn't going to be around here that much longer, but. So I started thinking of him as my replacement, and I couldn't be happier with him. He's a terrific guy. He's always sort of he's not stepped into any kind of my shadow. Now he's always letting me be the guy. But I'm looking forward to him being the guy. I'm going to stay on the board. But I'm not going to get in the spotlight. That's up to Josh, and he'll do a great job. Really will.
Absolutely. So, Joe, how important was it for you to have a grip with the community of San Diego? And how important was it for you to have that tie-in? Because, I mean, sports in San Diego is really a passionate thing when it comes to, when it was the Chargers were in town. Now they got the Padres, obviously. And the only other game in town outside of the Padres is Del Mar. And how important has that been to be connected to San Diego?
The San Diego market, I mean, it's a great market because it's not LA. You're not spread out all over the place. You're not New York or something where you get lost in the minions. But the San Diego market is great. I mean, we are a part of the San Diego market and a major part. And that's, you couldn't ask for a better place to be, really, because it's got the wealth, it's got the people, it's got the weather, and it's just, I mean, you just have to market, not where you are, not who. You just, hey, look at us, where we are, and I think that's the major marketing thing that's worked here for us.
No question about it. Your tie-in with San Diego and how important that's been. San Diego always has been a fixture there at Del Mar here. So, Joe, what are you going to do with all your extra time now? I mean, are you going to be hanging around the track? Are we going to be body surfing? What are we going to be doing? You say you got the ocean right around the corner. Where are we going?
I think you've hit on a few of these things. Actually, I'm finishing the book and about growing up in Hollywood and doing all this stuff. I've been telling stories over the years, and a good friend of mine who is an author has written, Jay Hovde. He's written a few books. He wrote the Shoemaker book and the Charlie Whittingham. And he said, Joe, we got to do the book. So I've been working with him, and hopefully here in a few months we'll get it. Hopefully we can find a publisher, and I think it'll be fun. It's fun reading. I've given it away, so it's it's called The Monkey Ate My Lizard, and so I'll tell you the story behind that some of the other days. Yeah, as soon as you buy the book. Yeah.
I can't wait. And by the way, for the record, this man introduced me, believe it or not, folks, to Bo Derek. So I want to put that out there too. So, hey, Joe, we'll be out there at the track. Thank you so much for doing this. We'll catch up again when the book comes out too. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thanks, pal.
Sileo says next here on SportsGrid.
They come in a lot more better prepared to play than, say, we did, having to learn some of the things that we learned coming into the NFL that we weren't learning in college. A lot of these kids are getting quarterback coaches, as far back as junior high school and all the way through high school into college. So I think the position is a lot more stronger than it's ever been.
Outspoken with Dan Sileo, only on SportsGrid.
Atlanta should be the team to step up and secure him.
Yeah, Atlanta's really interesting because they're, much further down the list at only, 8% right now on call sheet. But this is a team that has constantly come up in terms of GMs thinking, or the reports suggesting that GMs are thinking that Atlanta Braves are the dark horse team to kind of swoop in there and get Scoogle. And that's going to be something that, we should pay attention to.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Wembanyama goes to the park and plays chess against people. I saw him come in with a book today. Yeah. He walked in with a book, Kevin. He had a bunch of books in his hand. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, he's the only NBA player that actually walks in with a book that actually read it.
Yeah. It's a good take. It's a good take. Yeah.
Shot of LeBron. Listen, I couldn't help it.
I knew that I was trying to cut you off before you said the name.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Hey, look, one of the big battles going on in training camp for the NFL this coming season will be in Cleveland. I want to throw this at you here. You ready for this? 42 different quarterbacks since they've been back as an expansion team in Cleveland have fought for the quarterbacking job in Cleveland. And now it's between Deshaun Watson and Shedeur Sanders. And here's the odds right now for the Cleveland Browns to win the Super Bowl. So this is quite a number here. I mean, you've got two quarterbacks right now. One could go down as the worst contract in the history of the National Football League, and Deshaun Watson. They gave him $230 million fully guaranteed to leave Houston and go to Cleveland. It's basically an extortion payment because nobody wanted to go to Cleveland and play. And they ended up bringing him there, and it has been an absolute train wreck having that Deshaun Watson contract. He has been injured the entire time. He doesn't even look remotely the quarterback that played for the Houston Texans when he was throwing up 4,500 yards. And they were talking about him in the same breath as a Lamar Jackson. Will he be able to recoup that with Todd Monken? Yet to be seen. It's going down as one of the worst contracts, if not the worst contract in NFL history. And then on the other hand, you have Shedeur Sanders. Now, look, I don't know if the kid's an NFL quarterback. I don't know if the kid's going to be able to take the pressure of being able to play at that position there in that city. But I can tell you one thing's for sure. His background, being raised with his dad, Deion Sanders, obviously, is going to prep him for this opportunity. Shedeur is going to get a chance to play. Shedeur is going to get a chance and an opportunity to show whether or not he is an NFL-style quarterback. But here's the one thing you have to put when you're talking about the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns are like the New York Jets. If you're a quarterback in the NFL, these are places you go to die because they have not developed a quarterback in New York since Namath. They have not developed a quarterback since, I said, the expansion team back in Cleveland. 42 different quarterbacks, from the Johnny Manziels to the Baker Mayfields. How about that deal, too? If you've got two things you're looking at right now in the NFL, you're looking at two franchises. How'd you like to be the Jets and you're watching Sam Darnold now and what he's done the last 2 years? This guy has won 31 football games, 31 games in 2 years with the Minnesota Vikings and now the Seattle Seahawks and a Super Bowl championship. And then you look down south, you look at Baker Mayfield with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You're talking about a guy who's negotiating a contract right now for $55 million. Look, developing a quarterback has to be one of the most important things, if not the thing, for a head coach. Look, I've said this before. Head football coaches, I don't care how talented you are as a head coach. If you don't have the quarterback, it won't matter. If you don't have that position figured out, you can have one of the best rosters in all of football. But if you don't have that position for a head coach figured out, you're not going to win. Look at Bill Belichick at the end after Tom Brady left. Everyone looked and said, what's different with Bill Belichick? Nothing's different with Bill Belichick. Nothing. What was different was the roster. If you're not roster building and building around certain quarterbacks and their deficiencies, this all starts with the general manager. Look, I've said it before to people. Places like Cleveland, hey, look, organizations let down quarterbacks more than quarterbacks let down organizations. And they also let down head coaches. In today's profession, you know, back in the day when you had the Tony Dungy's and you had the Bill Parcells and you had coaches like that, my coach Jimmy Johnson, they dealt with an iron fist. They were head of personnel. They were ahead of hiring of coaches. They were involved in the selection of the players. My coach, Jimmy Johnson, nothing went through his desk or on his desk without his approval. I don't care what that Netflix thing tells you that Jerry Jones was involved with. Jerry Jones had no say when it came to anything but signing checks. That's how they won in Dallas. Those days are long gone. You're more of a CEO type guy today because you got so many people that you have to answer to. We had Coach Dungy on yesterday, and I asked him, do you think it's tougher to coach in today's NFL than it was back in your day? He said, absolutely. You got more mouths to feed, and you got more people to answer for. So we'll see how this quarterback battle shapes out here in Cleveland. Will Sanders get an opportunity? I believe he will. Will Deshaun Watson get an opportunity to turn his career around? He will. He'll get an opportunity. I like Todd Monken. I think Todd did some great things with Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. If they can get that football team turned back around again, they got some good players there on that roster in Cleveland. Speaking of coaching, this guy's one of my coaches. Herm Edwards is next here on SportsGrid.
They come in a lot more better prepared to play than, say, we did, having to learn some of the things that we learned coming into the NFL that we weren't learning in college. A lot of these kids are getting quarterback coaches, as far back as junior high school and all the way through high school into college. So I think the position is a lot more stronger than it's ever been.
Outspoken with Dan Sileo, only on SportsGrid.
Atlanta should be the team to step up and secure him.
Yeah, Atlanta's really interesting because they're, much further down the list at only, 8% right now on call sheet. But this is a team that has constantly come up in terms of GMs thinking, or the reports suggesting that GMs are thinking that Atlanta Braves are the dark horse team to kind of swoop in there and get Scoogle. And that's going to be something that, we should pay attention to.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Wembanyama goes to the park and plays chess against people. I saw him come in with a book today. Yeah. He walked in with a book, Kevin. He had a bunch of books in his hand. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, he's the only NBA player that actually walks in with a book that actually read it.
Yeah. It's a good take. It's a good take. Yeah.
Shot of LeBron.
Listen,
I couldn't help
I
it.
knew that I was trying to cut you off before you said the name.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
All right, man, I'll tell you what, we've had some great coaches on this weekend. Yesterday, Tony Dungy, and now one of my favorite people from ESPN, he is Herm Edwards. He joins us now here on the program. And, Coach, I appreciate you doing this here. And, Coach, I'll ask you flat out here. We just got through talking about that Cleveland situation. How about this? 42 different quarterbacks have tried for that job since they went back as an expansion team. I mean, Deshaun Watson and Shedeur Sanders are going to get their pop at winning that job, but really it's just been a big issue there. Why has it been such an issue there at finding that quarterback?
Well, obviously, when you have so many head coaches along with what you just mentioned, you can never establish an identity of what type of football team you want to be. And it's really a shame when you mention the Cleveland Browns. Because in my humble opinion, I didn't play against him, but I met the man. Maybe the greatest football player ever played for the Cleveland Browns. That was Jim Brown, right? I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, when you say Cleveland Browns, you say Jim Brown, you go, whoa, okay, I get it, right? And it's I can remember the era when Marty was back there, and they were a pretty competitive football team. They really were. They had an identity. They were physical. They were going to run the football. I mean, this is who they were going to be. When you look at them last year, if they could have got any kind of play from the quarterback, they would have been competitive. This was the 4th ranked defense. People lose sight of that. They were 4th in the league in defense. But they got to get the quarterback thing squared away. Deshaun, obviously, he's going to compete with Deion's son. Shedeur, but they got to get that quarterback thing figured out.
How much do you blame ownership when it comes to situations like this? I mean, you know, Herm, I think one of the things that people don't realize that so many people get in you guys' way. I mean, especially when you got a lot of chefs in the kitchen and you're trying to
Yeah.
make football decisions. How tough is that? And I just don't want to throw this at Jimmy Haslam. I'm talking about ownership that gets involved in football decisions. How much does that play when it comes to distracting or disrailing something that you're trying to implement when it comes to a game plan?
Well, if you have an organization that obviously has gone through a lot of GMs and a lot of head coaches, you find and you look at those organizations and you ask yourself, okay, well, what's the constant? It's ownership. And there's always changes because they can never find the right fit. So all of a sudden they feel like they got to be more involved in it. One of the classic organizations, when you think about it, for the history of football, had been the Pittsburgh Steelers. They had 3 head coaches. Come on, until Mike left, and now Mike McCarthy's in there. But when you think about the Pittsburgh Steelers, and you think about the history and all those trophies they had, you go, interesting, right? 1 head coach, 2 head coach, 3 head coaches. That's all. And they built their organization. They knew their identity. They said, this is what we do. Let's help the coach. We're going to stay out of the way. Let the coach games, and we'll be fine.
Coach, I'll tell you what, you're dead on here with that. How about this question? Do you think the Jets can be fixed?
I hope so. I'm pulling for Aaron Glenn. You know, Aaron Glenn played for me when I was the head coach. I had the privilege of being the head coach there in New York. It's a tough job. I can remember taking that job, and everybody said, "Man, it's a tough job." I said, "What do you mean tough job?" The reason it's tough is this reason. Same way with the Giants, right? You're in New York. You're in the Mecca now. There are a lot of eyeballs, man. There are a lot of people talking about your team. It's unbelievable. I didn't never listen to it because there's just so many people with opinions, and it's New York. It's just New York. That's what it is. And you don't realize it. Look, I played in Philly, right down the road. And you never, you hear New York. But then once you go there and you start coaching, you go, it's a little different. Just a little.
Coach, you mentioned Philly. I've never seen anything like this. You know, I do some sports talk in Philly, and I got to tell you, so Nick Sirianni is on the hot seat, and so is Jalen Hurts. Now, these guys, how about this, Coach? Over the last 4 years, they're 50-18. They've won 2 NFC championships. They've won a Super Bowl, and the quarterback has a Super Bowl MVP. But they're going into a hot seat year. Is it Philly or what?
It's Philly, but it's a little bit of the world we live in now when you think about it. 10 new head coaches. 10 this year. 10. Think about that. 10 new head coaches. It's become one of those deals now that it's almost like fantasy football. I don't like my coach, I'm going to get another guy. It doesn't matter. And there's no continuity when you see teams that are constantly changing coaches. And the pressure builds even more for the next coach because you can't look. Let me ask you this question. Coach Harbaugh, who is now in San Diego, left Baltimore. You can't win more than that guy, right? You can't win more than that guy. And it's like, okay, well, hey, he just can't win the big game. He can't get us in the big game. Well, we got to let him go now because we're tired. We'll keep the quarterback. So you know what I've been saying? Okay, you kept the quarterback. Guess what? Mr. Lamar Jackson, it's on you now.
Hey, absolutely.
It's on you.
Here. Absolutely.
Right? It's on Lamar.
It is. It is totally on him now in the new coaching staff there. You mentioned John Harbaugh. Coach, how much and how long do you think, is this going to be a long turnaround in New York for John, or do you think he turns that thing around quick?
I think they'll be competitive. Quickly. They got a young quarterback. He can he can help him because this kid always wants to run. He's going to probably sit him down and say, look, I had another guy similar to his name was Lamar Jackson. And I had to tell him the story. He's going to tell him, hey, you don't do us any good if you're sitting on the sideline because you're all beat up for running. You got to learn how to slide. You got to learn how to protect yourself. This Giant teams, they're pretty good. They got a good front for defensively. They will do some things. Scatterboo's a big back. He just got to learn. He just can't run over everybody because he won't have a long shelf life. But they have some potential. You know, this is a good division. This is going to be. I think this division quietly is going to be like the NFC West. The NFC West was the best division in football. You had 3 teams come out of there with 12 or more wins. Rams, San Francisco, was beat up as they were, and obviously Seattle wins the Super Bowl. Now, we talk about Philly a lot. Okay, Philly's going to be right there. Washington, Jaden's back. He's healthy. I talked to Jaden last week, actually. Jaden Daniels, you know, he played for me. Obviously, it's like my son, you know. Washington will be back. Dallas, if Dallas could just hold people to 24 points, they had the number 1 offense in the league. They score 31 points a game. They can score points. So you look at those 3, and then you look at the Giants, you go, okay, well, wait a minute. This division might be pretty good.
Absolutely here. Coach, Chiefs and Andy Reid. Is Mahomes and those guys, you played obviously for the Chiefs as well. It's a great organization.
Yeah.
Real quick, Coach. You think that team comes back and gets in the mix there in the AFC West?
Yeah, I think they got a chance. The problem is the division's gotten better. They gotten better now. You know, Chargers are better. The Raiders are still a little bit off, but when you think of that division, the Broncos obviously are very good. But the Chiefs, Mahomes is back. They give him he gives that team energy, so they'll be very competitive.
Coach, I tell you what, we're going to continue our conversation. Our great friends at Morgan & Morgan, the #1 injury law firm in all of America. Folks, it's because they win. Over 30 years, they've got over $30 billion recovered for families like yours across this great country. Do me a favor. Go to forthepeople.com/Big Sills or # 529. That's forthepeople.com/Big Sills or # 529 and do me a favor. You tell them Big Sills sent you. Don't forget, too, we got a lot to talk about here. Jaden Daniels is one of my favorite players, and he played for Coach out at Arizona State. Forward with Herm Edwards here on SportsGrid.
They come in a lot more better prepared to play than, say, we did, having to learn some of the things that we learned coming into the NFL that we weren't learning in college. A lot of these kids are getting quarterback coaches, you know, as far back as junior high school and all the way through high school into college. So I think the position is a lot more stronger than it's ever been.
Outspoken with Dan Sileo, only on SportsGrid.
Atlanta should be the team to step up and secure him.
Yeah, Atlanta's really interesting because they're, much further down the list at only, 8% right now on call sheet. But this is a team that has constantly come up in terms of GMs thinking, or the reports suggesting that GMs are thinking that Atlanta Braves are the dark horse team to kind of swoop in there and get Scoogle. And that's going to be something that, we should pay attention to.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Wembanyama goes to the park and plays chess against people. I saw him come in with a book today. Yeah. He walked in with a book, Kevin. He had a bunch of books in his hand. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, he's the only NBA player that actually walks in with a book that actually read it.
Yeah. It's a good take. It's a good take. Yeah.
Shot of LeBron. Listen, I couldn't help it.
I knew that I was trying to cut you off before you said the name.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
That is an awesome story here. We're talking with Herm Edwards here, and I'm talking about some of the footballs behind him there. He showed me his first interception, and it was Joe Namath at the Los Angeles Coliseum. He says that's his favorite football. I would say this to you as a kid growing up, Coach, the Miracle in the Meadowlands, I would have thought that would have been a football up there that you had when you ended up getting that Pisarcik play and you ended up taking it back for Coach Vermeil. How's that not your favorite football?
Well, it was special. I mean, there's no doubt it was special. But when you think about it, you're a rookie. Your first start of the season opener is against the Rams. I'm a West Coast guy. You know, I grew up watching the Rams, the 49ers, the Raiders. You know, I grew up in that era. And I'm walking in the Coliseum, man, and I'm playing against Joe Namath. You believe this? And I get an interception against Joe Namath. That was pretty good. As a rookie, I'm going, man. I held on to the ball and all that. But you're right. I mean, the Miracle, that was one of those plays. What's funny about that play is that most people don't realize when I picked up the ball and started running, Dick Vermeil was on the sideline. And imagine this, his back is turned away from the play. And he's got the offense, and he's talking to him about, hey, if we get the ball back, we're going to try to do this to score. And players are running past him. And he goes, where are you guys going? And one of the players say, Coach, Herm just scored a touchdown. Dick never saw the play.
Oh, my God.
He just saw me in the end zone. He saw me in the end zone. He never saw the play.
One of the unbelievable plays in the history of the National Football League. You mentioned in the last block here, Jaden Daniels in Washington.
Yeah.
You think they bounce back? Coach, you turned me into a Jaden Daniels fan when you told me how disappointed he was when he played for you out at Arizona State, that he didn't want to leave. He knew some of the things that were going on, and that's why he ended up going to LSU. And you were like this, I want you to go. You told the kid to go. I mean, you've really got a great affection for the kid. Do you think he bounces back? He's one of my favorite players in the league.
I do. I do. And, he's excited. He's in L.A. training. He's from L.A. He's in L.A. training, and he's getting ready. He's excited about the team. They've got a pretty good football team. They were very competitive his first year, and I told him this story when I first met him. I said, you know who you remind me of? And it's ironic because 2 weeks ago he calls me. I said, you remind me of this guy named Randall Cunningham. And I said, do you know who Randall Cunningham is? And he kind of went, I heard the name. I said, you need to study him. And he came back like a week later. He said, oh, Coach. I said, yeah. Same height, same build, same mindset of how he played. He played like Randall. If he wore number 12 in the Eagle thing, you'd think it was Randall. And I told Randall that. I said, that kid, I said, he reminded me of you, man. He started laughing. He said, yeah. I said, I'm telling you, man, he had your traits. So I'm hoping, I'm pulling for him. I'm pulling for Washington. Obviously, Jaden's there, and I like Coach, and I think they'll have a good football team.
Boy, I'll tell you what, if Randall Cunningham played in today's National Football League, you'd be talking about him in the same breath as a Patrick Mahomes. That's the kind of guy I played against because he was a special football player. Coach, obviously the college game, I want to get your takeaway on it. Do you believe college football's in a great place now, or do you think it's in a bad place?
Oh, I think it's in a new place, and we all have to grasp it and go, okay, this is the way it is. Now, it's funny. It's they used to pay the players under the table. Now they can just pay them over right in front. Here we go. We're paying you this. And I get it. I understand it. I think it's way too long that, for years, and you were one of them, you were a great college player as well. I mean, they gave you tuition and they paid for your education, and that's great. But the money that sports, especially football, generates, wow. And you never knew that. And it's no one's fault, but I think it's gotten there. I mean, it's gotten here where it's at. Now, I do think this. It helps you in this sense. It helps the NFL in this sense. Players will stay in college longer because they're getting paid. And a lot of them, if they're not a first-round pick, a second-round pick, and maybe not even an NFL player, why wouldn't I? So you're going to get an older, mature player. I think it helps you as well, and you know this when you're a rookie year and first time you get a bunch of money, you don't know what to do. That train starts faster now. It starts in college. So they got to deal with the problem of these athletes getting money and going, oh, what do I do with all this, right? I mean, those players got better cars in college than the coaches do in the parking lot. Right? I mean, be quite honest. And so, you know, you look at it and you go, okay, all these things, but as I said, you're going to see players move to different teams, especially quarterbacks or players that, you know, that people covet. I think now, and you know this, alumni, if you're one of those big boosters, it's almost like you're an owner because you're giving money. When they give money, guess what? You want to say, why don't we recruit this guy? Right? All of a sudden, you know, it's funny because, and I know a little bit about it because you see this here? I'm paying tuition for 2 girls. They're in Texas. I got a sophomore and a junior at Texas. Hook 'em horns, man. Hook 'em. And they both work for Stark. They're in the football program. They both work for Stark. So
oh my God.
I see, yeah, I'm going down there next week. You know, when they start, I'm going to see Arch and go to practice. I mean, it's ooh, boy, they got a good football team. They got a bunch of football players.
Coach, I told everyone, if I played in today's NFL, or excuse me, college football, I'd have a Big Sales Pizzeria on every single corner in South Florida right now, and you couldn't keep me on. There's no way. The money that's being generated today, you know, it's incredible, Coach. I mean, are you for that, Coach, paying the kid?
Yeah, you know what? I wish you could do this. You pay them so much, and then the rest of it you put away for them. So when they graduate, you get this amount of money. Save them the agony of going through all this, taking care of all the people they got to. Like I said, the train starts earlier for them now. It happens in the NFL. You know, that rookie comes in, makes some money. All of a sudden, he brings a train load of people with him. Now it starts in college at 17 years old when you're making this kind of money.
Coach, you know what? And like you said, you're right. How about this? Arch Manning will make nearly $25 million before he takes an NFL snap, and he comes from generational wealth. So you're right about the kids staying in college longer. Coach, thank you so much. We'll do this again.
Thank you, brother.
Open passion. Continue here on.
They come in a lot more better prepared to play than, say, we did, having to learn some of the things that we learned coming into the NFL that we weren't learning in college. A lot of these kids are getting quarterback coaches, you know, as far back as junior high school and all the way through high school into college. So I think the position is a lot more stronger than it's ever been.
Outspoken with Dan Sileo, only on SportsGrid.
Atlanta should be the team to step up and secure him.
Yeah, Atlanta's really interesting because they're, you know, much further down the list at only, 8% right now on call sheet. But this is a team that has constantly come up in terms of GMs thinking, or the reports suggesting that GMs are thinking that Atlanta Braves are the dark horse team to kind of swoop in there and get Scoogle. And that's going to be something that, you know, we should pay attention to.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Wembanyama goes to the park and plays chess against people. Like, I saw him come in with a book today. Yeah. He walked in with a book, Kevin. He had a bunch of books in his hand. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, he's the only NBA player that actually walks in with a book that actually read it.
Yeah. It's a good take. It's a good take. Yeah.
Shot of LeBron.
Listen,
I couldn't help it.
I knew that I was trying to cut you off before you said the name.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
You know, usually on this program, you get Big Sills bashing all over Lane Kiffin. And rightfully so for some of the things that he said and he's done. I couldn't stand the whole scenario a year ago where he ended up leaving his team high and dry, that Ole Miss team, as they were prepping for an opportunity to play for a national championship. I would never play for a guy like this. However, in this light, I may actually have to agree with Lane Kiffin. He's at the Southeastern Conference meetings, and he made a comment, and he thinks the 9-game SEC schedule that has been proposed here by Greg Sankey, the commissioner, is a bad idea. My concern is that college football and the playoff selection process is not fixed until it's truly fixed to reward strength of schedule. If we keep playing each other, we don't prove we're better than anyone else. I happen to agree with this. Believe it or not, he's right. Listen, the Big Ten is without a doubt right now the number one conference in all of college sports. 3 straight national championships with 3 different teams in football. You've got the men and the women in the college basketball that have won national titles. My friends, the Big Ten is taking the lead here. Lane's right. How are you going to find out how good you are if you're not playing Ohio State, if you're not playing Clemson? This is a money grab by the Southeastern Conference. The more they play themselves, the less they have to share with opposing programs. Remember, when you pay for a team to come into your barn in Baton Rouge, you pay that team to come down and play LSU, and vice versa when LSU goes and plays at a non-conference place like Ohio State, or it goes into a place like Miami. You pay each other for coming and playing in your own barn. It's a home and away. That's what it's called. Well, the SEC believes the more we play one another, the money stays within the conference. Dude, that's not going to tell you who the best conference is and who the best team in the country is. I was always a fan of strength of schedule, and I am a fan of strength of schedule. That's why I believe one day you'll see a 3-loss team play for the national championship, and you should. Listen, going undefeated in today's college football, that doesn't necessarily mean you're the best team in the country. Who do you play? When do you play? We see this in the National Football League. The team traditionally with the best record in the NFL doesn't always win the Super Bowl. We saw that play out one year with Tom Brady's football team when they ended up the regular season unbeaten. They beat that New York Giants team in the final regular season game. And when they got that team in the Super Bowl, they ended up getting beaten. And it was the one loss on that schedule that would have stopped them from equaling what the Miami Dolphins did back in the early 70s. They would have been undefeated. You're not going to see that. Folks, strength of schedule matters. And also, too, with the process, he's talking, I happen to agree with Lane. The James Madisons and the Tulanes of the world, what are you doing in the playoff? There's no reason to have those programs playing for a national championship. And just to give the fans, well, guess what? We have to open it up for everyone for it to be fair. Dude, life is not fair. And so is playing in a sport like this. There's haves and have-nots. Tulane and James Madison have no right playing in that tournament unless they play strength of schedule. How in God's name do you sit there and look at James Madison's schedule and then turn around and look at a schedule like Ohio State or LSU or Alabama or Georgia and say, hey, this is fair? You've got different metrics for this playoff system. Look, I'm looking for the 12 best teams. Hey, and as Lane said too here, I'm not for expanding. I like the 12 teams. I like that teams get left out. I like that there's a debate. You actually make the college football postseason now interesting. Look, these bowl games, like going to the FruitLoop.com Bowl, nobody watches these games. And nobody cares about those games anymore. The college football playoffs and the college football system right now at 12, I think it's fabulous. Because you have a debate at the end of the year, and you're talking, what 3 teams got left out? Last year, Texas, you're talking Notre Dame. was two of the teams that ended up getting left out, and it made for great water cooler talk. He's right. This is a bad move by the Southeastern Conference. I think places like Florida, LSU, Georgia, you've got to play out of conference. Because when you play out of conference, you're showing your strength of schedule. We'll go anywhere and play. That's the mantra that many of the great programs have. I don't care who you are. We'll play you anywhere. Absolutely true. All right. We're going to bounce to basketball. And we are going to talk to our friend Rick Barry. Man, this stuff with LeBron James has been absolutely insane. Philadelphia gets LeBron. Hall of Famer Rick Barry's next here on SportsGrid. You know, one of the top 25 players in the history of the sport is Rick Barry, and he joins us now here. By the way, I got to say this before I get into the LeBron James thing here. So I looked this up. His last 8 years in the NBA, Rick Barry led the NBA in free throw shooting 6 times. And the only time he scored really under 20 points was his final season. And he was 35 years of age. And we're going to get to LeBron James here in a minute. But I want to ask Rick, when you were starting to get plus 30, what were some of the challenges that you had in your career when you were plus 30 years of age? Obviously, LeBron is now in Philadelphia at 41. But for you, some of the challenges that you went through as you were getting older and playing in the league.
Playing for some coaches who weren't that good. I mean, I'm serious. That Rocket team that I was on had more talent than any team I've ever been on. I had 2 other Hall of Famers, Calvin Murphy and Moses Malone. Mike Newland, one of the most underrated players in the history of the game, just an outstanding player, smart as hell, shoot the ball, post up. I mean, Robert Reed, a nice young player, Rudy Tomjanovich, Mike Dunleavy, who wound up leading the league in three-point shooting, and the coach had told him he didn't want him shooting three-point shots. I mean, it was unbelievable. That team was so loaded. So, yeah, that was the thing. And everybody said I couldn't play. So I'll give you a real quick story to end it. So, everybody, well, I can't play because I averaged 12 points. Well, I went there just to help a team win, okay? Kind of like what LeBron's doing. I thought I could go there and win a championship with them. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. But I was like the 4th option on the team, right? So one game when Calvin Murphy was sick, I started at the 2, and I took 25 shots in that game, the most shots I had taken in 2 years, and scored 37 points. I said, so if you want me to do this, I can do this, but that's not what's being asked of me. So my career could have lasted longer. And the only reason it didn't is that next year I was going to play with the Boston Celtics. They were ready to sign me. The NBA, to save money in 1980, cut the rosters from 12 to 11, and I didn't get to play anymore. And I had an operation. I hadn't felt so good in 10 years and never played again, other than on a tour overseas with a bunch of guys.
Man. All right, then let's go over to LeBron here, and let's ask you here. I mean, obviously, this is ring chasing. And, Rick, you were ring chasing at the end of your career. You were thinking of going in and helping, a basketball team try to win an NBA championship. How did you change your mentality from being the guy to being a facilitator and helping someone? Because LeBron's in that stage right now. Look, Maxey, Edgecombe, and Embiid, they're going to probably be the number one options. Talk about that transition for you and how you had to go through that now, and a little bit on your takeaway in LeBron picking the Sixers.
Well, I had a long conversation on the show that I do with Cyrus Satchis, who do things called Golden Days, and we had another guy that was a producer of mine on before and we had an incredible conversation about what LeBron should do. And we all came to the conclusion that Philly would be the place. If you're going to chase for a championship, that probably is the best team. That team's loaded. I mean, if everybody stays healthy, everybody commits to being a defensive first team, and they play unselfishly, that team is going to be tough to beat. I really do believe that. So that was a smart move on his part to do that. And the whole idea for me is that not like chasing me. I just want to win. I mean, what the hell do you play for? I mean, I had nothing to prove individually. And so I chose the team that I thought was going to give me an opportunity to be on a championship team. And unfortunately, it didn't work out. And I think LeBron made the right decision to go to a team that gives him the best opportunity to win another championship. And he just has to be willing to do whatever it is the coach decides is best for the team. And he needs to do the things that are being required of him, which would be obviously not to be the main guy. I mean, it may turn out that he does more than we expect. Who knows? I mean, it's just a matter of time. You have a lot of unanswered questions as to how well they're going to mesh together, because it's all about team chemistry. And then, how good they're going to have, their bench is going to be, because you don't win with only 5 guys. I mean, your bench has got to be good. You got to have a bench that does stuff. Worst case scenario, just like we say, hold the fort, right? If you get in the game, don't fall 10 more points behind. And sometimes, occasionally, maybe they'll add a few points to the equation. So it's going to be fun to see what happens. But I think he made a great choice.
How about this, Rick? You just mentioned something about a coach when you went to Houston. I wonder what that dynamic with Nick Nurse is going to be. LeBron James hasn't really had any alpha, head coaches outside of Eric Spoelstra. Now he gets a coach that has won an NBA championship. How much do you think that plays into it too? And maybe one of the reasons why he chose Philly, Rick, was because, this guy has an NBA championship. That relationship, how important is that with the head coach and him?
Well, I think it's critical. I mean, I think any time when I was coaching, even the minor leagues, you always have to establish, I think, a meaningful relationship with your key players. You've got to get your key players to buy into your philosophy as to how you want this team to play in order to win a championship. And if you can't get your key players to buy into that, it's hard to be successful. It really is. So he needs to, the first thing I would do is invite LeBron and go to dinner a few times, have some meetings with him, talk to him, get into his head as to, what he's thinking, tell him what you're thinking, and try to get on the old proverbial same page.
Do you think they have the best starting 5 in the Eastern Conference now?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, they've got a lot of talent there, absolutely a lot of talent, and it's just a matter of them playing together, playing unselfishly. And what I always told the guys when I talked to the Warriors before they started some of the runs and some of the teams. I said, look, you guys, if you want to be successful, you need to take your ego and stick it in the closet, because it's no longer about you anymore. It has to be about the team. What can you do to help this team win, and be willing to do that, even if it means sacrificing a little bit of what you think you should be doing? You have to conform. And if you're willing to do that as a team with a number one commitment to being an outstanding team defense, you don't always have to be the best defensive team to win championships, because I think in the history of the league, I think it was only 2 teams were outside of the top 10 in defense that won championships. So if you have a prolific offense, you can still win a championship, even if you're not one of the best defensive teams. But you enhance your chances dramatically if you are one of the best defensive teams. And they've got a lot of talent on that team. They've got the big guy to protect the rim. They've got a lot of other talented people. But it becomes a collective effort in order to win a championship by helping each other defensively.
Boy, Bob Myers, I mean, he's been only there like around 6 months. Here was the architect of the Golden State Warriors. I know Jerry West was in the front office there too with some influence, but I mean, look at they're in a different lane right now, Rick. I mean, they're just in a completely different lane. I mean, they go out, they get Jaylen Brown, then they go out and they get LeBron James 3 weeks later. They move the Paul George contract that nobody thought was possible. I mean, here's another guy talking about legacy. He goes to another place and wins another championship. Man, Bob Myers, I mean, he's absolutely just elevating what they haven't done there, the process with Elton Brand. How good is he as an executive, in your opinion?
Well, obviously, he's done an exceptional job. He did a great job with the Golden State Warriors. I think he learned a lot being around Jerry West. Jerry West is one of the first guys to have done that to keep the Lakers up at that high level. The other ones that did it was R.C. Buford at San Antonio, working hand in hand with Popovich. And I think that's what you have to do. I think the general manager and the coach have to be on the same page and work together. It just makes it work a lot better. You have to give some input to the coach. I mean, he's the one that has to coach these people. So I think that Bob Myers has done an outstanding job. Even if they don't win a championship, and obviously they have a chance to do that with this group of players, he goes down as one of the best GMs in the history of the league. He's proven himself, and it's going to be fun to see what happens.
Absolutely. Here, I'm going to ask Rick, and we're going to talk a little bit about also what Giannis needs to do down in Miami, and maybe why didn't LeBron pick the Miami Heat or go back to Cleveland. You know, listen, here's an opportunity to go to a 4th different team, win a 4th championship. Nobody's ever done 3. This will be 4. I wonder how Rick looks at that. A mobile superstar. Back in his day, he was one of the first guys. We'll do that next year on SportsGrid.
I know you didn't. Talk.
I'm innocent. Got the wrong guy. It wasn't me. I didn't do anything. Okay, it was me. I did it.
Bringing an owl to an interrogation? That's a power move.
Every time. Yeah.
Hiring America's largest injury law firm for your injury? That's also a power move. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest...
More of our conversation here with legendary Hall of Famer Rick Barry here. Hey, Rick, real quick, your takeaway on what you're watching with this Caitlin Clark story and how and what is going on with that. Listen, the WNBA has not been a moneymaker for almost 30 years. 28 years, that thing hemorrhaged money. The NBA was just carrying it. All of a sudden, now they get a golden goose. She's like the Larry Bird, so to speak, of the WNBA. Just your takeaway on what and how this whole thing and this saga is playing out.
I was disappointed that they didn't take a firmer position once all of this started, and it should have been a situation. This type of behavior is not going to be tolerated, regardless of whether it was Caitlin Clark or anybody else. That type of physical play, I mean, this is someone's livelihood. You can't allow that type of play to take place because it's going to affect their careers. And in her case, it's even more insane because there's never been a player in the history of the WNBA, and I know well about it because my wife left USA Basketball to be the assistant for Val Ackerman, who was the president of the NBA, who she knew really well, and helped them get the WNBA started. She got all the foreign players. She set up the training camps. So I've watched this league from its inception. And nobody, you can name any player you want that's been in that league up until Caitlin Clark. Nobody's had the dramatic impact that she has had. And it's all because of the exposure with TV and streaming and stuff. And I mean, she has changed the game dramatically. I mean, sellouts every place that they're going when she went to play. I mean, Caitlin Clark was kind of like a savior, kind of like, Magic and Bird, when they came into the NBA, helped things and change things dramatically. But she's special. And it's not like you're trying to give her extra protection. What was going on was just wrong for the game itself. And here's the thing. As you well know, a player will adjust to what's happening, right? If you're allowed to go out and play physical and they're not calling it, you're going to play physical. If you know that if you play overly physical, it's going to be a big fine and suspensions, you're not going to be overly physical unless somehow you lose your composure for a second. You don't want to get suspended. You don't want to get fined. And so you adjust to what the officials are calling. So that's the same thing even with the NBA. It's crazy how they change everything in the playoffs, which drives me absolutely bonkers, to turn it into a physical contest like gladiatorial combat. I mean, you're giving an advantage to the less skilled player. And I always kept asking David Stern, God rest his soul, why are you doing this, David? Why are you letting the less skilled player get an advantage playing in the playoffs by being able to be overly physical? And I've many times looked at statistics and stuff. The majority of players in the history of the league statistically do not do as well in the playoffs as they do in the regular season. It's because they give such an advantage to the defense to do the kind of things that they do.
Rick, I want to take you back to this LeBron story here, and I want to get your spin on it because you hear a lot of the people in the past that played in the 70s and 80s that aren't really a fan of what LeBron has done, ring chasing, they're calling it. I was always under the belief, and I'm with you, like, your situation that we talked about in the break. Hey, listen, a player like you, Rick, you shouldn't have to sit there if an organization is not building a championship around you. That's not your responsibility to do that. Your responsibility is to win. Or do you look at him in a different light? Jordan wins 6 titles in one place. Russell won 11 titles in one place. This is a modern day sport right now. Mobile athletes. How do you look at LeBron chasing another ring?
I don't have any problem with it. The object of the game is to what? Win. It's not individual accomplishments and things of that nature. Hey, and if it works out that you can stay on the same team and they're able to make the changes like with Steph, they've been trying to do that to give him reason to want to stay there because he can still win. That's the ideal situation. Everybody was on the first guy they jumped all over was Kevin Durant. And I had no problem with that. I was thrilled as a Warriors fan to have him come there. I still can't understand why the hell he left. They could have won multiple championships. I don't understand why Kobe and Shaq broke up because they would have been an unbelievable dynasty as well. So it's great when it works out ideally, but I have no problem with that because I went and I picked Houston because, well, if I'm going to leave over $10,000, which was stupid, I had a chance to be on a team that had a chance to win a championship. Why do I want to leave where I've been settled in, where my family has been, to go play someplace where I'm just going to make some more money and I have no chance of winning a championship? Why the hell would I want to do that?
Yeah, you were chasing rings, and you were chasing more so than rings, wins.
I just
let
want to
me ask you
win.
this.
I hate losing.
Okay, well, speaking of that there, you think the Sixers team here, OKC, Spurs, I mean, can they knock one of those teams out in the West? Or does it really all just come back to what you said at the beginning of the interview here? This comes down to health and how many games Embiid plays. He got to play north of 40 ball games. He can't be down there at that lane playing 40 games. This comes just down to health for the Sixers. Can they beat OKC or the Spurs?
Well, there's a lot of variables right now. First of all, how well are they going to play together and mesh? That's up to Nick Nurse to try to get these guys to do that and what they buy into. That's something we'll see as the season progresses. If they are able to do that and they stay healthy, they definitely have a chance. The biggest difference is San Antonio, OKC have proven that they know how to win, okay, together. And they have guys who have done it for at least a season or so. This is a new entity. So it's all coming down to how well the players on the 76ers buy into what Nick Nurse is going to get them to do and how LeBron fits in and what he's willing to do. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays itself out. On paper, they are they are a force without question. They are a heck of a potential to be a heck of a basketball team, and it'll be fun to watch. And we needed something like that to happen, certainly in the East. And the Knicks need to be ready because actually San Antonio should have beaten the Knicks, and I admire what the Knicks did, and it was a great job. But San Antonio should have won that series.
Boy, I'll tell you, like you just said, that I-95 war. Rick just got a little bit better here because I'm with you. I mean, you just said this. And by the way, think of this. You go up to 95, you got the Celtics, you've got the Knicks, and now you've got the Sixers. This is great for the NBA, isn't
Well,
it?
that's the way it was in the old days. It was Philadelphia, New York, and Boston. They're back to that again. And throw into the equation, who could screw it up, Giannis down in Miami.
Man, I can't wait to see what happens here. Rick, I mean, you talk about a team that needed it, but one thing LeBron James hasn't ever dealt with is the Philadelphia fan base and the Philadelphia crowd. I think that, Rick, going into Philly, I want to see him do that.
Well, hey, the LA fans never truly embraced him like you would have thought. They really didn't. They really didn't. And here's the thing. If you play the way you are capable of playing, then those fans are great to be your fans.
Rick, thank you so much, my friend. Final thoughts next here on SportsGrid. Well, the storyline this week clearly has been LeBron James going to Philadelphia. And I can't wait to see what happens in the NBA this year. LeBron made the decision to join the 76ers at 1 a.m. in the morning, per Rich Paul from Clutch Sports. Came down between Cleveland, Miami, and Philadelphia. And like JY, who predicted it 3 weeks ago, it turned out to be the city of brotherly love. I will tell you one thing, having worked there for the last 6 years and covering the Eagles and covering sports there in Philadelphia, this is going to be either statue building or this is going to be tearing down. There is no gray area with that fan base. They revere you or they revile you. And if you do not produce, you do not show up, they will turn on you faster than a New York minute. I will tell you flat out, that's how that fan base acts. And rightfully so. I think they hold you accountable. The Philadelphia fan base is one of my favorite fan bases I've ever talked to sports in. I got to tell you, I enjoy it very much because they're not going to sit around and there's no gray area. Look, you've got Nick Sirianni that is on the hot seat. You've got Jalen Hurts. People are saying this. If Jalen Hurts doesn't perform this year, the Philadelphia Eagles are going to move off of a quarterback who's 50-18, won 2 NFC championships, a Super Bowl MVP, and they're saying this. If he doesn't deliver and he doesn't evolve with this new offense that they're implementing with Sean Mannion, they're going to go in a different direction. The same thing with the head football coach. If you look at any of the list of any of the prognosticators, I'm talking about the upcoming season, the one name that shows up that's on the hot seat is Nick Sirianni. And this is because of the expectations that they have in that city. There is no doubt about it. Bryce Harper, you see the heat that he's under. LeBron James will be facing the same heat, him going into Philadelphia. Look, that's a heck of a lineup there. Maxey, Edgecombe, Jaylen Brown, LeBron James, and of course, the road cone, as I call him, Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid has got to play north of 40 ball games. This guy is average. Get this, in his time, he has averaged 45 games over his 9 years as a player for the 76ers. Dude, you got to play north of that. Former MVP a couple years back, he's got to play to that form again. Everyone remembers the rim out. You know, the Kawhi Leonard, Toronto Raptors, that opening round series, the winner of that series, in my opinion, would have gone on to win the NBA championship because the Raptors ended up going on and winning an NBA championship. Hey, look, people say this all the time about Embiid. Arguably one of the greatest players in 76er history. Well, Moses Malone would have something else to say about that. That 83 team will go down as one of the greatest NBA teams in the history of sports, not just in the history of the NBA. 4-4-4-4. Everyone remembers Moses with his proclamation. And that team was playing in the era of Bird and also Magic Johnson. So many great teams were playing in that era. And Dr. J on that team, this could go down as arguably one of the best teams and one of the greatest moves in Philadelphia sports history. Look, this is almost the equivalent of Tom Brady going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and trying to get another championship. Remember, Brady went down to Tampa Bay, and they had a loaded roster. Brady was looking for the right coach. He was looking for the right roster, and he landed in Tampa with Mike Evans and with Bruce Arians. That's kind of what LeBron has done here. Look at what you have. You have Bob Myers running the whole shop. There's no Daryl Morey in there who never accomplished anything. His biggest accomplishment was, when can I sign James Harden? What did that ever get him in the end? Nothing. Now you have Bob Myers constructing a basketball team that's going to give LeBron James an opportunity to win a championship in one of the toughest sports cities in all of America, and that is the city of brotherly love. What an absolute great opportunity. And by the way, you got to hand it to LeBron here. He's not chasing any kind of records here. He's not chasing money. He's playing for the league minimum. 4 years, $8 million. Or excuse me, 2 years, $8 million. This guy's playing for $4 million a year. So this is not about going and getting max contracts any longer. This is going and trying to maximize his last and final opportunities to make the argument that he's the greatest player in the history of the NBA. What a statement by LeBron. I know some people aren't for this. Some people don't like this move. I think this is the first move in LeBron's career that's really a basketball move and not just a LeBron brand move. This is about winning here. This is about putting a championship and another ring on your finger and making the GOAT argument even tougher. 4 championships, 4 cities, 5 titles total? I don't know. The conversation is going to get heated up if he delivers again. We'll see you next week. Catch you on the flip side.